in the end, you're trying to fit in so much donuts and you're trying to eat so much sugar that you're building visceral fat and you're completely ruining your signaling system. If it fits your macros. Now you may be thinking, if it fits your macros, if I eat 2000, I burn 2000, I'm at maintenance. How could that be wrong? And at base level, you are correct. If it fits your macros, works to some level. So if you have 2000 calories, fill up whatever you like, as long as you're hitting your protein and whatnot, and you're good to go. But there is a problem that I'm going to talk about in this video that the fitness industry has completely neglected. Before I continue on, I want to give credit to Hamza, who actually brought this topic up in one of his videos where he talked about diet education. Firstly, for those people who don't know what if it fits your calories or macros are, basically, let's just say your maintenance calories are 2,500, and if you ate at 2,000 calories for 7 days, so each day you're in a daily deficit of 500 calories, over 1 week, that is 500 times 7, which would be 3,500 calories less, which means you would lose 1 pound. And people go to the extreme saying that, so I have 2,000 calories, as long as I fill it with the amount of protein I need to eat, I can eat whatever I like, as much sugar, fit as many donuts as possible. But as long as I get the protein and as long as I'm hitting just 2,000 calories, I'm good to go. And that 1 pound that I lose at the end of the week will be from fat. Now, it is correct that you'll mostly lose it from fat because when you're on a calorie deficit, there is some muscle loss risk. But what I'm talking about is that 1 pound of fat you lose, it is subcutaneous fat, which I'm going to talk about later on in the video. The main reason why If It Fits Your Macros has become so popular is because it's marketable. A bodybuilder who's eating Cocoa Pops and pizza is very marketable and attractive to the general public because people associate Cocoa Pops with high sugar, high carbs, and also same as pizza, high fat, high carbs, a lot of salt. And they believe those things are bad. And I'm not going to comment on that. That's not the point of the video. But because they believe those things are bad, they can't possibly understand how a bodybuilder who looks so shredded and ripped is able to eat those unhealthy foods but still be able to build that much muscle and be that shredded. And so they want to know the secret as to how they can also continue eating those unhealthy foods but still be able to look like the bodybuilder. Even though the reason why the bodybuilder got there was from hard training and majoritarily eating in a clean surplus, or at least choosing more healthier foods and then going on a fat loss diet, training for many years, being dedicated. Possibly, depending on the person, it could also be steroids, genetics, and a whole other variety of factors. And not to mention that just because someone looks ripped or someone looks very huge doesn't mean they're actually really healthy. Before I actually continue on to the video, I do want to say that eating sweet foods or junk foods is definitely acceptable. Even I do it myself. And you shouldn't restrict yourself only to the clean foods because that's going to cause an eating disorder. There's nothing wrong with treating yourself once in a while, but treating yourself once in a while is completely different to trying to fit as many donuts or as many junk food as possible in one day without increasing your calories, where one is mainly focusing on the healthy foods and treating yourself occasionally. The other one is fitting as much sugar as possible while still hitting your goals. Speaking in the context of sweet food, when you add sugar to something, it makes it taste better. And because something tastes better, you're likely to eat more of it. This is because the pleasure that you get from eating sugar or when you take that one bite of a cheesecake, the amount of pleasure you get from the tastiness and the added sweetness from the sugar means that your brain automatically craves it more. It wants to have another bite, it wants to have another nibble at that pleasure. And because it's also so low effort, where all you need to do is take another bite of the cookie, you're able to get such large amounts of dopamine and pleasure just from a little amount of effort. And so this is the perfect loop for your brain, where it can put in low effort but reap a huge reward. And in doing so, your brain gets addicted to this, to putting in low effort and getting huge rewards by craving the sugary foods. That's the concept all about sugar and what it does to your dopamine system. In addition to that, we need to talk about 3 important hormones which control a lot of when you want to eat, how much you want to eat. And those are ghrelin, insulin, and leptin. Ghrelin, the first hormone, tells your body that you're hungry. So whenever you do feel hungry, that's actually your body sensing ghrelin. But now everyone in the fitness industry is going to say,
At 9 a.m. I eat 800 calories of oatmeal, and that's not Ghrelin saying it, that's just me counting my calories and doing it.
well, that's the problem, which I'm not going to talk about in this video, but the fact is they don't even listen to their own internal hunger signals where they base it off some outside caloric measures, which I'm going to say are very important. And it's not to say just focus on your internal signals. All of this will come in a later video, but the fact that they're not listening to their own body and using external measures to dictate how much they eat is a problem in itself. But normally speaking, when a person feels hungry, that's when they go to eat, not when 9 a.m. is this many calories. So because of that, when their ghrelin does spike, which means when their brain senses hunger, they go and eat. Insulin, on the other hand, tells your brain that you're full. So when you're satiated, when you're eating a meal, how does your brain know when to stop? And that's basically insulin telling your brain that you're full. Insulin also has a second role, which is telling your body to absorb the nutrients that you've just ate, which means ghrelin is the first hormone which tells you that you're hungry. Insulin tells your brain that you're full and also tells your body to absorb the nutrients. And finally, we've got leptin, which is a hormone that goes from your body and tells your brain you need to burn off those calories and nutrients that you just ate from your previous meal. Which means if everything was perfectly synced, so your ghrelin would signal to your brain that you're hungry, and you'd eat until your insulin signals to your brain that you're full. And it would also signal to your body that you need to store all those calories and nutrients. And later on after the meal, a couple hours later, leptin would signal from your body to your brain that you just need to burn off all those calories that you ate, which means you'd eat a certain amount and you'd burn that certain amount. And everyone knows this in the fitness industry as when calories in and calories out equal the same, your weight is stable. You're at maintenance. So the problem is if all of these signals were working perfectly together, then you'd never be able to bulk or gain weight because you'd be in a constant cycle of maintenance. And not only would you not be able to bulk, but more importantly, the human species would go extinct because they would never be able to gain weight from the child's age to an adult's age during puberty. So they would go extinct without even being able to gain weight and continue to the adult state, continue to the adult age, reproduce and continue their offspring. The only way to gain weight is you eat more than you expend. So when you eat more, you store more and you expend less. The hormone which tells us to store is insulin, and the hormone which tells us to burn it off is leptin. So the only way for us to gain weight is when insulin overrides leptin. But how your body metabolizes and absorbs nutrients is where the problem really becomes apparent. Sugar is a mix of glucose and fructose. And without getting too complicated, glucose is essential for your life and it basically becomes glycogen. And glycogen, as everyone knows, is energy. So it's very important for you, not only to fuel your workouts and make your workouts productive, but also to continue in your daily life. Glycogen is so important. If you don't eat glucose itself, then your body itself will make glucose. But remember, sugar is made out of glucose and fructose. And the problem lies all here in the fructose. Because when your body absorbs fructose, the only way it can actually absorb it and metabolize it is when it goes through the liver. And because your liver is the only organ which is able to metabolize the fructose, it works so hard just to metabolize it, something called lipogenesis occurs. Search up lipogenesis if you want to learn more about it. But lipogenesis basically means that now you get visceral fat. And now everyone starts panicking because I was talking about subcutaneous fat before at the beginning. And now I brought in another type of fat, visceral fat. And everyone in the fitness industry will be like,
Isn't visceral fat subcutaneous? Isn't there just one type of fat, the fat where you can pinch on the top of your body?
no, visceral fat is actually the fat between your organs. So let's just say your shirt is over here or what you're wearing. And you've got your subcutaneous fat around here, you have your muscle around here, and then your organs deep over here. And visceral fat is around your organs over here. So It's completely different to your subcutaneous fat, which is above your muscles. And so subcutaneous fat is the one which you can pinch, and when you go in a fat loss phase, you can get rid of it. So all those people who are eating 2000 in a 500 calorie deficit but eating whatever they like, yes, they're getting rid of the subcutaneous fat, but because they're trying to fit in as much sweet sugar as possible, the liver has to work so hard that it starts producing visceral fat inside. And this is why so many people have pot-bellied abs. And because you have so much visceral fat, you actually become insulin resistant. So now one of your hormones have become resistant. Remember, insulin tells your brain that you're full. And because now you're resistant in that, your brain doesn't pick up the actual signal that you're full. And you keep on eating that extra sugar, which also ties in with the dopamine and the reward you get. So you end up storing more of it, which means you store more visceral fat. And that's another cycle in itself. And so in order to break that cycle, you need to overproduce on insulin again, which overrides the leptin signaling. So the leptin signaling was to tell your brain from your body that you need to go burn that off. Now that has been overridden, and because you've overproduced so much insulin, you've overstored all those calories. But now all the fitness enthusiasts will say,
I do cardio in the evening and I burn all those calories off. I do 10,000 steps a day.
no doubt, you may do 10,000 steps a day, that's extra 500 calories of burn. You've also done another cardio session in the evening. So you are in a balance, or according to your goal, you're tracking well. Your weight's coming down, the weight's going up, whatever you need, you're building muscle, you're losing fat. But remember, you're building muscle, you're able to lose fat, but that's only subcutaneous fat. In the end, you're trying to fit in so much donuts and you're trying to eat so much sugar that you're building visceral fat and you're completely ruining your signaling system. I need to restate again that this doesn't apply for people who on the majority eat a clean or healthy diet and once in a while treat themselves. For that, that's completely okay and is definitely healthy. But for people, especially with the trend of if it fits your macros and people trying to fit in as much sugar as possible, that's where the problem really happens. You're building visceral fat just to eat more sugar. Not only are your hormones screwed, but since you're eating such large quantities of nutritiously void foods, you're probably going to end up with deficiencies as well, which is another problem in itself. I hope you enjoyed this video and the perspective that I gave if it fits your macros. Hopefully with this knowledge, you probably understand that you can't fit as much sugar as possible within your diet or calories because there will be some repercussions. With that being said, may the gains be with you and see you in the next one.